"Is that a bruise?" my mom asked. I nodded. She blinked and looked away. That's the moment I realized the slap hurt less than their silence. They brought groceries. He brought a beer. No one brought up the mark under my eye. He laughed, like it was all normal. And me? I sat there, wondering how long I'd been invisible. But that night, I lit a candle. And 30 minutes later, when the door clicked again, I wasn't the one who stayed down. If you've ever swallowed pain just to keep the peace, comment on number 1. If not, comment number 0. Because this isn't just a story about surviving abuse. It's about what happens when silence stops protecting them and starts protecting you. The moment I heard the door unlock, I didn't move. I was still on the couch, frozen by something that wasn't fear anymore, just instinct. My left eye throbbed with a dull, sour ache. The cool washcloth beneath it had long since lost its chill. The television played an old sitcom in the background, each laugh track louder and more absurd than the last. I hadn't cried. Crying makes the pain echo. But silence packs the wound like gauze. It wraps around it until even I can pretend it isn't bleeding. The door opened. No knock, no warning. Just the familiar scent of detergent and cheap grocery bags crinkling. My parents had always let themselves in, the same way they always looked past what they didn't want to confront. I turned my head slightly, just enough for the bruise to catch the light. That was all it took. My mother's hand paused midair, a gallon of milk hanging like a question she didn't want to answer. Her gaze locked on my face, my eye, and trembled. Not out of horror, not shock, just discomfort. Like seeing a stain on her Sunday blouse. My father didn't flinch. He looked at me, then at the bruise, and then measured something. As if he was trying to decide whether it was worth asking about, whether acknowledging it would cost more than pretending it wasn't there. Behind me, the recliner creaked. "Would you look at that?" Chase called out, his voice soaked in smugness and beer. "The polite little family's back." He didn't even try to act innocent. He didn't need to. He'd already learned that silence could be louder than any accusation. My father gave him a stiff nod. My mother blinked, turned, and walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. They unloaded the groceries in neat rows on the counter, performing their routine like good suburban actors in a scene they'd played for decades. As if they could mute the bruise with routine. I didn't speak. I didn't look away. When they were done, they walked out. No goodbye, no questions, just the soft click of the door. A sound like retreat, a sigh of relief. Behind me, Chase laughed. Not loudly, just enough to let it settle like smoke in the air. I could hear the beer bottle tilt against his chest, the glass clinking softly with each breath. "You always push," he'd said earlier. "Always gotta make it a thing." I touched the bruise, not to soothe it, but to memorize it, like a scar in the making. It hadn't started today. Earlier that afternoon, I'd finally snapped. "Stop treating me like something you picked up from a clearance bin," I'd said. He'd barely looked up from his beer. "You done?" "I'm serious." That was all it took. The slap came fast, flat and full. My ear rang as I hit the counter. I couldn't breathe for a second. And then, like always, he reached down to help me up. "Don't start a thing," he said softly. "You always push too far." I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just took the paper towel from the sink and pressed it to my lip. Blood soaked through, and I didn't flinch. That night, as he napped in the recliner, chest rising and falling like a smug, sedated tyrant, I walked to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back looked tired, but not broken. I spoke aloud. Just 3 words. I exist. Still. And in that moment, I realized something far worse than the slap, worse than the bruise. My parents had seen it. They saw me and turned away. I wasn't just dealing with Chase's hands. I was dealing with the world's silence. That was the real betrayal. I left the bathroom and opened the drawer where I'd hidden the black envelope, the kind used for funerals or endings. Inside, everything I'd been collecting, quietly, methodically, waited like a loaded gun. And then, I picked up my phone. The message thread was labeled with one letter only. M. I typed, "I'm ready." Then I deleted it. Then I typed it again. And this time, I hit send. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't need one. 30 minutes later, a knock came. Not loud, just firm. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. Maya stood there, in a thick gray sweater and jeans, holding a plain black duffel in one hand and a folder under her arm. She didn't smile. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't need to. Her eyes moved from my eye to the envelope on the table, to Chase's unconscious form on the recliner. I gave a single nod. She stepped inside. The door shut behind Maya with a quiet finality that felt heavier than any scream. She didn't speak, just dropped the black duffel gently onto the floor like she was laying down a body. I stood still, breathing shallow, my fingers brushing against the edge of the envelope I'd left by Chase's beer. "He's still asleep?" she asked finally, voice low. I nodded. "Out cold." She pulled the zipper open and began to unpack. A flip phone, a stack of folders, a worn black notebook with red tabs marking pages like battle flags, my old toothbrush, a travel-sized deodorant. Every item came out with the same care you'd show to a crime scene, because in many ways, this house was one. "We don't have long," she said. I stepped over the duffel and opened the bottom drawer of the credenza. Inside, beneath a stack of expired coupons and old birthday cards, sat a flash drive I'd labeled with a fake bookstore name, Riverside Books. I handed it to her. She plugged it into her laptop and began scanning. "I added the recent bank statements this morning," I murmured. Maya didn't look up. "Good. The January transfer?" "Flagged and printed." I walked to the kitchen and opened the cabinet above the sink. Taped behind a bag of flour was a small digital recorder. I peeled it free and held it for a second before placing it next to her folders. "Fresh batteries?" I said. She finally looked at me then. "You've done more than enough." "No," I replied, quieter. "Enough would have been leaving the first time he raised a hand." She didn't argue, just took a breath and opened her laptop. We sat in silence, the only sound the occasional creak of the floorboards or the low hum of the fridge. Outside, the wind picked up, whispering under the window panes. "Do you want to hear the voicemail?" I asked. She didn't answer, just nodded. I tapped my phone, scrolled, and hit play. Chase's voice crackled through the speaker. "You think anyone cares what you say? You're just furniture, Eden. I pay for this house, for you. That makes you mine." Maya didn't flinch, but her jaw set tight. "I recorded that last week," I said, "after the night he punched the closet door." "The one with the split hinge?" I nodded. "Took pictures." "They're in the folder marked March," she clicked. "Found them." Silence again. Then she reached into the side pouch of her bag and handed me a phone, the flip kind you only see in spy movies or dusty kitchen drawers. No apps, no GPS, just numbers. Mine's programmed, so's Sierra's. I turned it over in my hands. It felt light, but it carried weight. "If he finds out you're preparing this..." Maya didn't finish the sentence. "He'll flip the house upside down," I said for her. "I know." I stood slowly and moved to the living room. Chase was still there, slumped in the recliner like some grotesque throne. The envelope still rested beside the beer, unopened. I took a breath. Time to give him a preview, I muttered. I picked up the envelope and slid it under the edge of the beer bottle, propping it upright. Then I walked back into the hallway and opened the linen closet. From the back, beneath a pile of unused bath towels, I pulled out a sealed black envelope, the kind Maya had given me months ago. Inside were printed screenshots, bank transfers from our joint account to a gambling app, photographs of my bruises. An ER report I'd told the nurse was from a fall in the garage. And one final document, a notarized letter from a nurse friend confirming the inconsistencies between Chase's explanation and my injuries. Maya leaned against the hallway wall, watching me. "You're ready," she said. "Not for him," I replied. "For court." She smiled then, the faintest curve of her lips. "Same thing." We returned to the bedroom, the door closing softly behind us. The room smelled faintly of lemon cleaner, like Maya had wiped down every surface she touched. She opened her laptop again, while I retrieved my journal from the nightstand. Inside were scribbles, diagrams, statements I wanted to memorize if I ever had to testify. I flipped to the back where I'd taped an old photo, one of me, laughing before Chase. My eyes weren't hollow in it. My back wasn't hunched. I didn't flinch at shadows. Maya placed a document beside me. It was a lease. My name was signed. Her credit had backed it. 12 miles south, she said. Small, clean. Your name's the only one on file. I traced the signature with my fingertip. You're not doing this alone anymore, she added. I know, I whispered. And I meant it. But knowing wasn't the same as believing. I stared at the bruise in the mirror again. It was darker now. The yellow had begun to crawl under the skin, eating the red like rot. I touched it gently, not to soothe it, but to remind myself, he did this, and I stayed. But not anymore. Have you ever realized you stayed somewhere long after it started hurting you? Just because leaving felt scarier than staying? If you've ever told yourself it's not that bad, just to survive another day, drop a comment 7 below. Now let's see what I finally chose to do next. From the hallway, the recliner creaked again. Then silence. Then the distinct sound of glass on wood. He was stirring. I met Maya's eyes. It's time. We stepped back into the hallway just as Chase's silhouette shifted. His hand moved toward the envelope. I didn't stop him. Let him see. Let him feel the first breeze of the storm. The sound that woke me wasn't a bang. It wasn't yelling or shattering glass. It was a creak, slow and sharp, the kind wood makes when weight shifts with intention. I cracked the bedroom door an inch. Chase stood in the living room, shoulders hunched, staring at the envelope next to his beer. The TV still played that same sitcom rerun, but now the canned laughter felt like mockery. I could feel Maya behind me, silent and steady. Chase picked up the envelope, sniffed at it like it might explode, then tore it open with one hand. He squinted at the contents, printed screenshots, legalese, photos with time-stamped footers. His face twisted. Confusion first, then the flicker of something uglier. He turned his head slowly toward the hallway. I stepped into the light. "Looking for something?" I asked. He blinked. "What the hell is this?" I didn't answer, just held my phone up. The screen was already recording. He squinted, lips parting. "Is this a joke?" "No," I said, "but I did rehearse it." He stepped forward. "You're recording me in our house? You think this is admissible?" I kept my voice even. "It's not for court. It's for you, so you don't forget who I am." His eyes narrowed. "You're unstable." That word again. His favorite shield. Behind me, Maya stepped into view. She held her phone, screen also glowing. A red dot blinked in the top corner. Chase's eyes darted between us. You brought someone? Into our home? I brought protection, I corrected. He pointed toward her. You dragged your friend into our marriage? To bait me? I tilted my head. If it's a trap, why are you sweating? I'm not, he snapped, wiping his forehead. I took a step forward, the phone still steady in my hand. Smile, Chase, I said quietly. You're finally on record. That's when he lunged, not fast, not violent, just enough to grab my wrist. His grip wasn't hard, but it was firm, meant to assert, not harm, yet. Let go of her, Maya said, her voice cold and flat. This is already live. He hesitated. You're bluffing, he muttered. Try me, she said. He released me like I'd burned him. Took a step back. What do you want? He spat. I handed him another envelope, this one thinner. Inside, a printed restraining order draft, a notarized affidavit from my therapist, and a statement of financial control. He opened it slowly. Read the top line. His jaw twitched. You planned this, he hissed. I documented it. He let the pages fall. You're trying to ruin me. You did that yourself. A knock echoed through the apartment. Not loud, just firm, rhythmic. Chase flinched. I didn't. I walked to the door and opened it. 2 officers stood there. One male, mid-30s, crisp uniform, sharp jaw. The other, a woman in her 50s, with kind but guarded eyes. I stepped aside. I believe you're here for him. Chase's mouth opened. This is a setup. She's been acting strange. She has someone filming us. The younger officer lifted his hand. Sir, we just need you to calm down. She's unstable, he barked. I pointed to the folder on the coffee table. The older officer moved to it, opened the flap, flipped through the contents. These time-stamped? She asked me. Yes, ma'am. Notarized. All of them. The younger officer scanned the flash drive Maya offered. This is a lot of documentation, he murmured. Chase laughed, hollow and forced. She staged this entire thing. This is harassment. No, I said. This is called evidence. The older officer looked at Chase. We're going to need you to come with us for questioning, voluntarily for now. What? If you refuse, we can escalate, she added gently. Let's not. He stared at me like I'd set fire to the carpet. You'll regret this. I met his eyes. I already regretted staying. They guided him toward the door, not cuffed, yet, just flanked. As he passed me, he sneered. You think anyone cares? Maya leaned forward. They do now. The door closed behind them. Silence fell, thick and holy. I didn't speak, just sat down on the armrest of the couch. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't tremble. I felt steady, like I'd just dropped a weight I'd been carrying for years, and only now realized how heavy it had been. Maya sat beside me, scrolling through her phone. They'll hold him 24 hours, maybe longer, depending on what sticks. I nodded. Do you want to crash at my place? I shook my head. I'm okay. She didn't argue. She just leaned back and whispered, This is only the beginning. And she was right. The apartment was quiet again. Too quiet. Chase had been gone for hours, and yet the shape of him still lingered in the cushions, in the silence, in the spaces where I used to shrink. I didn't feel relief, not yet. Just space. Air. Maya had left a few hours earlier after double-checking the lock on the door and moving her duffel to her trunk. Call me the second you feel anything, she'd said. But what I felt wasn't fear. It was clear. I opened my laptop at the chipped kitchen table, steam curling from the mug of tea beside me. My cursor blinked on a blank document, a silent dare. And I started typing. Not to the police, not to a lawyer, to a journalist, Sierra Kane. I had found her months ago, watching a news segment at 2 a.m. about a woman who exposed her abusive husband, a sitting state senator, and survived not just the scandal, but the media storm. Sierra hadn't flinched. She had told the story like it belonged to her, too. I typed her name into the subject line. Then, line by line, I attached everything. Photos, recordings, medical reports, bank statements, a timeline I had spent hours organizing. And yet, my fingers hesitated over the send button. I remembered being called dramatic by my own cousin when I once spoke up about a lesser bruise. I remembered a coworker whispering, "She's just sensitive," after I'd cried in the restroom at lunch. My heart beat faster, but this time not from fear, just friction. The kind that happens when silence rubs against truth for too long. I clicked. At the end, I wrote one last sentence and stared at it for a full minute before hitting send. If I disappear, this is my voice. Publish it anyway. I closed the laptop. The tea had gone cold. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed in the living room, lights off, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of lemon and soap. Every time a car passed outside, my eyes darted to the window, but I didn't check my phone. I didn't second guess. At 6:13 a.m., it buzzed. Sierra Kane, Restory submission. This will not be buried. I'll call you in an hour. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. When the Zoom link arrived, I clicked immediately. Her face filled the screen, sharp features, dark circles, no makeup, and eyes that didn't blink unnecessarily. "Eden," she said. "Thank you for trusting me." "I wasn't sure I should." "Good, you shouldn't trust easy, but you trusted smart." She verified everything, every attachment, every file, every timestamp. "This," she muttered, while opening the audio file of Chase's drunken voicemail, "is damning." "I know." Then she said something I hadn't expected. "You're not the only one." I froze. "What?" "There's another woman. Different state, same pattern. His name was different, but it's him. She's scared, but she's ready to talk." I didn't speak. My stomach turned. Not from fear, but fury. "He's done this before?" "Yes. And now he's done." I leaned back in the chair. My reflection in the black screen was faint but present. "Connect us." She nodded. We ended the call after she promised to run the piece by Monday. As I closed the laptop, a new buzz lit the burner phone Maya had given me. Blocked number. I stared at the screen. "You've made a mistake. Fix it, or I will." I didn't flinch. Instead, I said aloud, to no one but the walls, "No." I just finally corrected one. I tossed the burner back onto the table and grabbed a hoodie. I wasn't going to hide. Not anymore. Instead, I walked to the community center on Mason Street, the one with the bulletin boards filled with grief circles and immigration lawyers. Inside, I found the room Sierra had reserved. 2 other women sat at the table, Dana, Alana. They didn't cry when they saw me. They didn't hug. They just nodded. Dana's fingers trembled slightly as she pulled out her documents, but her eyes never wavered. I saw what courage really looked like. Not loud, not dramatic, just persistent. She unfolded a spreadsheet like it was a sword. "We're not here to swap war stories," Dana said. "No," I replied. "We're here to change the pattern." We opened our laptops. Maya had already set up the shared drive. That afternoon, we launched the landing page. No frills. Just our names, our stories, and one sentence. We are not asking for justice. We are showing you the proof you refuse to see. My final upload was Chase's voicemail. Beneath it, I typed a single caption. We heard each other. Have you ever been dismissed until your truth became too loud to ignore? If you've ever been underestimated but came back stronger, drop a comment 9 below. Let's watch what happens when silence turns into power. As I left the building, I paused just outside the doors. The afternoon air smelled faintly of smoke. Across the street, under the edge of an awning, stood a woman in a red coat smoking a cigarette. She wasn't looking at her phone or at traffic. She was watching us, watching me. Her gaze wasn't hostile, just long. And for a moment, I wondered if she was standing there the same way I had stood months ago, on the edge of belief, waiting for a reason to step inside. By Sunday morning, the air felt different. Not lighter, just sharper, like it knew something was about to break. I zipped up my jacket and walked through the side door of the community center on Mason. The same room where Dana, Alana, and I had sat just days earlier was waiting. Lights on, coffee stale, chairs already arranged in a messy semicircle. Dana was already there, sleeves rolled up, a stack of folders in front of her. Alana arrived minutes later, holding nothing but a single flash drive and a rolled-up hoodie under her arm. We didn't greet each other like survivors. We sat like strategists. We ready? Dana asked. As we'll ever be, I said. Maya joined remotely via video chat, her face lit only by a desk lamp. She'd been up all night encrypting the database, renaming file trees, scrubbing metadata. The kind of work that makes things not just visible, but undeniable. We uploaded everything: photos, screenshots, medical records, text threads, voice recordings. One by one, they appeared in the shared drive Sierra had set up, Restory Portal 03. I stared at the folders as they expanded, proof layered over proof, years of silence unraveling in front of us, like a ledger of pain finally made public. Then the landing page. Maya had mocked it up earlier that morning. Black background, white text, a single sentence in bold at the top. We are not asking for justice. We are showing you the proof you refused to see. 3 names beneath it. 3 testimonies, each with linked evidence, each documented, dated, notarized. Dana uploaded her financial records first. He rerouted my business account through a shell name, left me holding the tax debt while he gambled with my money. Her voice didn't waver, but her hands gripped the table's edge with white-knuckle steadiness. Alana followed. He moved everything under his parents' names. No car, no credit. When I left, I had nothing. And when I pressed charges, the DA said I didn't look scared enough. Silence hung for a second. Then I clicked open the Chase folder and dragged in the audio file. The same voicemail Sierra had highlighted. Chase slurring, "Even if you scream, no one's listening." I added a caption under the player. "We heard each other." Alana gave a quiet nod. Maya, through the screen, whispered, "It's live." We didn't cheer. We didn't cry. We just sat there as the page refreshed, as the numbers climbed. Visits, shares, timestamps. At 11:24 a.m., my phone buzzed. An email. Chase Lorne, statement review. Pending from his employer's HR department. I opened it. We've been made aware of public allegations and accompanying documentation regarding Mr. Lorne. Effective immediately, we are initiating a termination review. Confidentiality restrictions have been lifted in accordance with policy. I didn't smile. I didn't move. I simply tilted the screen toward Dana and Alana. They read it. No words. Another buzz. This time, a number I didn't recognize. I picked up. "Ms. Marsden?" the voice said. This is Taryn Everett from the Fulton County DA's office. We're reopening your case. The evidence recently surfaced has changed our legal position. I closed my eyes. Thank you, I said. I'm sorry it took this long. I'm not, I replied. I'm just glad you finally caught up. We set a meeting for Thursday. Formal statement. Final filing. When the call ended, I stood and stretched. My spine popped in 3 places I didn't know had been stiff. Years of weight uncoiling. Dana poured tea from a thermos she'd brought. Chamomile. She slid a mug toward me like it was sacred. To clarity, she said. Alana raised hers. To noise that can't be ignored. We drank in silence. As we packed up, Maya blinked through the screen. You sure you don't want me to archive this behind a passcode? No, I said. I want it wide open. I grabbed my coat and paused by the door. On the bulletin board, someone had pinned a flyer, Support Group for Legal Advocacy. Beneath it, someone else had scribbled in pen, We are louder together. Outside, the wind had picked up. The sky was brittle blue, sun low over the parking lot. I stood there for a moment, letting the chill settle in my collarbones. Across the street, a teenage girl stood frozen in front of her phone, reading something. I couldn't see the screen, but I saw her face. She looked angry, but not broken. I walked past her without speaking. She didn't look up, but she didn't need to. Some stories echo, some burn, and some, like ours, refuse to go quiet. A week later, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, I stood once again outside the courthouse. Same concrete steps, same tall glass doors. But this time, I wasn't shaking. In my hand was a sealed manila folder, the final documents, the divorce filing, the motion to make the protective order permanent, the formal withdrawal of joint financial claims. It was thinner than I'd imagined. It didn't weigh much. But somehow, it felt like closure had its own gravity. The breeze lifted my coat as cars rolled past on the road behind me. A burst of laughter drifted across from a cafe patio. Somewhere, someone was living as if none of this had happened. I envied them, but I also didn't. Because this ending, was something I had earned. Headlights turned into the lot. Rachel stepped out first. She didn't wave, just met my eyes like we'd already had the conversation. Dana followed, carrying nothing but a thermos. Then Alana, with a small candle in one hand. We didn't speak. We just stood side by side at the base of the courthouse steps. I came here alone once, I murmured. I leave with sisters now. Rachel nodded and squeezed my arm. Inside, the corridors buzzed with fluorescent lights and tired clerks. No cameras, no reporters, just the sound of old justice being pushed forward by quiet persistence. I stepped up to the counter and handed over the folder. Final filing? The clerk asked, not looking up. Yes. Stamp, slide, done. No copies? No, I said. That's all. Back outside, the sky had turned a deep lavender. The air was cooler now, settling over the city like a blanket that didn't smother, but stilled. We stood on the sidewalk for a few moments, watching the last rays disappear behind the buildings. Dana opened her thermos. Chamomile, she said simply. She passed it to me. I took a sip. It was still warm. I remember the first time I called you, Alana said softly. You sounded small, not weak, just hidden. I was, I replied. Hiding felt safer. Rachel added. But you still picked up the phone. That landed deeper than anything else that night, because that was the truth. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't thrown anything. I hadn't broken glass or doors. I had picked up the phone. I had documented. I had waited. And then I moved. I turned and looked at the courthouse one last time. Behind the glass, A woman at a desk was flipping through a folder. Maybe mine. Maybe someone else's. I imagined she paused. Maybe not out of pity, but out of recognition. The fight wasn't loud. It wasn't fast. But it was complete. "I'll walk home," I told them. "You sure?" Rachel asked. I nodded. "I need the air." They hugged me one by one. No fanfare, no speeches. Just presence. Alana placed the unlit candle into my hand. "For your window," she said, "in case someone's still watching." I walked the rest of the way alone. The amber of the streetlights painted the sidewalks in long shadows. My steps were slower now, but steady. When I reached the apartment, I unlocked the door, slipped off my shoes, and moved through the rooms without turning on every light like I used to. I didn't double-check the deadbolt 3 times. I didn't scan the corners. The place wasn't big, but it was mine. And the silence wasn't threatening anymore. It was honest. I stood by the window, the same one I'd stared out of during nights he didn't come home. Or worse, when he did. I placed the candle on the sill and lit it. Its flame flickered faintly against the glass, a soft orange pulse in a world of sharp neon. I whispered, not to God, not to him, but to myself. There are bruises no one sees. There are silences that cut deeper than fists. But there is also something else, healing that doesn't ask permission. I didn't move for a long while, just stood watching that tiny flame burn. And in its light, I didn't see what I'd lost. I saw everything I'd reclaimed. I no longer live in fear, and I no longer owe anyone an explanation. My silence isn't submission anymore. It's the closing sentence of a story that used to bury me. I now stand inside the very space I once trembled to enter, and this time, I do not bow. What I've learned is this: justice doesn't always arrive quickly, but it comes if you document, if you speak, if you walk, even when no one lights the path. Kindness only holds value when given to those who deserve it, and the pain you survive today might be someone else's map tomorrow. If you've ever stayed quiet out of fear, if you've ever been abandoned by the people who should have protected you, tell your story. You are not alone. Share your experience in the comments, because every voice added builds a place where others feel safe to speak. And if you want to see survivors not just survive, but win, stay tuned. The next story starts here.